Welcome, everybody. It's great to see so many people here tonight for such an important conversation. I'm Michelle Tarryk. I live in Derby, and I'm a member of the NEK Stand Strong community group. I'd like to ask that folks, if you have cell phones, that you make sure they're either off or on vibrate or on silent. You can check that out. In the event of an emergency exits are located in the back and in the side. Okay. Deputy Tested is in the back for us this evening to keep us nice and safe here. Also would like to recognize some distinguished guests here tonight. It's hard for me to see out there, but Senator John Rogers is here. Gary Jens is here. And Representative Sam Young. If another legislator happened to walk in that I missed you, if you want to stand up. No, I think we got everybody. Okay. So a lot of folks made tonight possible. So I just want to kind of point out a few and say thank you. Of course, Tara and Adam Patten, Emily Robinson is here tonight, and Rhonda Percy, big helps, Julie Burgoyne, Joanne Fideli, and just, it's been great, the outpouring of support. So that's just a small list there. So we also want to thank Taryn Pratt and Men from AGOG Press. They printed all the wonderful posters that went out. Christian Kerner was a designer of the posters. He did a great job. Mark Shelton gave us 2 sets of tickets to the Elvis tribute, so that's what's going to be raffled off tonight with your surveys. Derek Renai from the Newport City Motel. Zach from North Country Union High School up there helping us with our technology here tonight. We have Tracy Ashman from NEK-TV taping everything tonight for us. We also received support from North Country Hospital, Vermont Department of Health, and NEKLS, and so we really appreciate all of that. So I am really thrilled to introduce the person who really made this possible and made this happen for us here tonight, and whose idea she just kind of ran with it. And you want to talk about somebody who just absolutely represents NEK Stand Strong. She's amazing, and we had one speaker, and then very quickly she had to find somebody else. And you want to talk about a whiz. Oh my gosh, she just rocked it out. So I'd like to introduce Tara Patten.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Tara Patten. I live in Derby. And I lost my best friend to a heroin overdose. It'll be 2 years in November. And I was angry for a long time. It took me a long time to get over that when you lose someone like that. But I made a promise at Charlie's funeral that I would try to break the stigma of this, and my main goal is a sober living facility in this area. I think it's really important. And I started this a couple months ago. Through social media, I reached out to see how to pull together the community and bring awareness. And I talked to Brandon Novak, who will be speaking tonight, and he's just an incredible person. he's my angel. He's an inspiration. And, just educate, and bring awareness. And so Brandon will be speaking, and then there'll be some questions for Brandon, and then we'll have the panel come up. And that's what I got. So without further ado, Brandon Novak.
I want to thank Tarryk, Michelle for putting this event on, because I'm a firm believer that it takes a village to raise a child. And left to my own devices, I can, will, and do self-destruct. When I'm helping people make that very overwhelming decision to enter treatment and to change their life for the better, they come up with all these grand illusions and ideas of things they have to do before they go, and things that are more important than checking into a treatment center. And I often say to them, I say, why would you take advice from the last person you got high with? And they say, that's funny, I never thought about that. The last person I got high with was myself. And when we're in that position, because I speak about them, but when I speak about them, they are me. When we're in that position, our decision-making ability is completely and utterly hopeless. My best thinking had me in a shooting gallery with a needle in my arm. My best thinking had my mother buy me a plot 4 years ago on Mother's Day. My best thinking had me on life support for 7 days. My best thinking had my employers, family members, and friends take life insurance policies out on me. And the fact of the matter is I'm only one bad decision from those policies being paid out. One bad decision from that plot being filled. Some of you guys might know me from those movies, Jackass, a New York Times author of an addiction memoir, former professional skateboarder, all these titles. But the title that holds the most weight in my life is that I'm a recovering drug and I'm a drug addict and alcoholic. Because the moment those titles come before my recovery, I tend to forget what one drink of wine, one bag of heroin will do to me, and I'll lose everything. I've seen me do it. So when I got a call to come up here, my schedule was free, and I said yes without hesitation, because the fact of the matter are, today alone, there will be 129 deaths due to overdoses. And the stigma must be lifted, and I believe it is being lifted, because prior in my life, I would hear junkie, rehab, jail, junkie, rehab, junkie, rehab, death. My experience today shows junkie, rehab, senator, junkie, rehab, author, junkie, rehab, 20 years of sobriety. I'm a firm believer it's never too late as long as the addict of alcohol is drinking, like something can be done. My story is born and raised in Baltimore City. I come from a family of extremists. My mother just retired after 53 years of gainful employment at Mercy Hospital, second longest employer in Mercy Hospital history. She started out drawing blood $5 a pop, worked her way up the ladder, just retired as a nuclear physicist. My brother wanted to be an attorney. Literally by the time he passed the bar and went to law school, he was blinded in student debt. My brother and mother did what I did, but for a different fashion and form. Despite any and all adverse consequences that came their way, they did what they had to do to get what they wanted to get. My brother today currently resides in the White House doing pensions and benefits. My father never held a job a day in his life. Taught me one thing: if and when I go to prison, prison how to conduct myself. Disease untreated, no awareness, stigma not lifted yet, untreated addiction, was smoking crack 5 years ago in his house, became very paranoid, called the police, said that people were after him. The police came, it was snowing at the time, they did a perimeter around the house. There were no footprints in the snow, they went in, they 302'd him because he was a danger to himself. He did his 72 hours, he came out, picked up where he left off, began smoking crack again, became paranoid again, he lit the house, he went with the house, dead. Extremists. I, on the other hand, at 7 years old, I was awarded the ability to get my first skateboard. And it was like God came down and handed me the form of the Holy Grail on the skateboard. I knew I was going to be a professional skateboarder. I ate it, I breathed it, breathed it, I slept it, I dreamt it. At 16, I became it. Didn't say maybe schooling should be an option, maybe I should get a trade, maybe I should have a plan B. Despite any and all adverse consequences that came my way, I did what I was going to do and I got what I wanted to get. And at 16, I'm on tour, and another professional skateboarder by the name of Michael Alley finds a whole bunch of drugs on me. He says, "Brandon, you need to get rid of the drugs, or we'll kick me off tour." I threw him down the sewer. After the demo was done, we were in the Midwest. I had a girl take me back. I got the drugs out of the sewer. They find the drugs on me. They kick me off the tour. I'm home, and I get a phone call from Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk says, "Brandon, we have one or two options we can do with you. We can put you into treatment, you save your life, continue to be a professional skateboarder, or you can quit the team." And I didn't have a breath of fresh air in my lungs when I said I quit. I quit because when I'm using, I don't do well with the words honest, reliable, dependable. They do not help me get one more. My delusional mind that I lived in said the skateboarding world needs me, cannot go on without me. I am an asset. In reality, I became a liability. Living at my mother's and shooting heroin full time. No tours are being booked. No demos are being asked for. I can't produce a video part. And I'm living at my mother's house with my girlfriend. And my mother and my girlfriend come to me about 6 months into this deal. And they said, "Brandon, we have an idea for you." I said, "What's that?" They said, "We want you to go to treatment." I said, "You know what, that's a great idea. A, I have the time. B, I'm going to go to this treatment center, I'm going to meet these people, and I'm going to report back to you why I can drink and drug successfully. I'm not these people. They need it. They're in a bad way, in a bad shape, on a bad day. I can drink and drug successfully." Every time before I speak, I pray to God to please allow me to plant the seed in one person's head that is deemed unfixable or unhelpful, such as I was, and you understand in a second why this was so important to me. I'm in my first treatment center in Baltimore City, and I'm in this big cafeteria, and I'm trying to make this bowl of chicken-flavored ramen noodle soup. I'm like ill as a research monkey. I'm shaking, I'm spilling the soup all over me, and this old black man comes up to me. He said, "White boy, what are you doing here?" I said, "Heroin." He said, "How old are you?" I said, 17. He said, "Do yourself a favor and don't turn 18 in a place like this." As quick as he left, as quick as he came, he left. I had no idea the significance of this conversation. You know what I can tell you about that man? I can tell you where the 4 teeth were placed that were located in his mouth. I can tell you, because I had all mine at the time, right? I'm comparing out, I went to this thing with a closed mind and a closed heart and report back to my people why I don't deserve to be in treatment. I can tell you that he was black, I was white. I can tell you he was 75, I was 17. He was homeless, I still had a home and somewhat of some money. He needed this place, I did not. You know what I can't tell you about that treatment center? I can't tell you my counselor's name. I can't tell you about the relapse prevention packet they were shoving down my throat. The healthy or unhealthy boundaries they might try to instill in me. Because if I can tell you about those things, that might mean that I can relate to being an addict or an alcoholic, and I do not want that. So I leave that treatment center, disease untreated, no defense against me in that first one. Pick up where I left off. I turned 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 26, 27, 28, 29, 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35 in a jail or treatment center. And every year on my birthday, all I did was think of that man that I was so different from. And all I could say to myself is, maybe I wasn't so different than that man. Maybe if I would have kept an open mind and an open heart and listen to this man's advice, I might not continuously find the situations that I find myself in. So I'm in and out of these jails, I'm in and out of treatment centers, and I would go to these meetings, and what I would do is I would like loiter with the intent to recover. I would get the sponsor, I would get the home group, I could fellowship fairly easy because I'm a people person. But I would not like work the steps, right? And I would do A, I would do B, I would do C if the weather was right, and D if she looked good enough. And I would get those kind of results, and I just couldn't understand why. And I'm the kind of alcoholic that like, I must lose everything for you to get my attention. See, I suffer from this disease which allows me to have selective memory when it's in favor of my alcoholism. Right? I can tell you about 5 years ago when I went out with my ex-fiancée and I promised her I was going to have 2 glasses of wine and I wasn't home by bed by 9 p.m. I can tell you it was snowing out. I can tell you what the barkeep's name wanted to serve me. I can tell you the music was playing on the jukebox. I can tell you the stool that I sat on. Because that relates to in favor that I can control my drinking and I'm not you people. Oddly enough, what my mind chooses to have me block out is being medevac to the hospital 4 different times. Being on life support at that very hospital that my mother's on the board of for 7 days, and when she found out I was in there, they were going to pull the plug on the 8th day, and she came storming the room. She said, "That's my son, you will not pull that plug." For me to awake on the 8th day, I had tubes in every hole in my body except my backside. Eyes wake. I see my clothes, they were cut off in the corner. My first thought is, did they find my stash? I can't get out of bed, so I fished my clothes over to me. They found my stash. I ripped every tube out of the holes in my body and I left. It allows me to forget that because that doesn't play in favor of my disease. You know? So, what's also crazy about my disease is that, like, if I have cancer, a fatal disease such as alcoholism, fatal equals death. If I have cancer, I'm rushing to the hospital to get chemo because I don't want to die. If I'm diagnosed with HIV, I'm rushing to the hospital to get the correct medication because I don't want to die. If I'm a diabetic, I watch my sugar intake because I don't want to die. You lay me an addict or an alcoholic, I need a glass of wine or a bag of heroin to figure out why you people are so crazy. And I have this disease that allows me to lie to myself with my own voice, and if I'm not vigilant, I'll believe that lie. Once again, that plot will be dug up. Policies will be paid out. So somewhere along the line, I end up in these movies that break box office records, right? And you guys tell me my life is unmanageable, but I go do an appearance at a nightclub, and they ask what I need, and I say I need some heroin, some cocaine, some Xanax, and some wine. They get that from me. I go hang out, take pictures, sign autographs. Then they produce a check for $10,000. I already suffer from a delusional mind. Now I'm really like in a delusional world because you guys say my life is unmanageable, but like I do this for a living and I do okay with it. Common recurring theme in my life is that I continuously find myself with myself, by myself, crying to myself because I lack the inability to accept personal responsibility for my actions. But now I started coming around in these treatment centers and I started learning some things, and that really sucks. Because once you know, you're to be held accountable for your actions. If I don't know, I simply don't know. That's all fair. It's real hard to shoot a bag of dope when it's cut with NA. It's real hard to drink a glass of wine when it's cut with AA. Because I would come in here and I thought that I was so internally unique that like what works for you guys cannot and will not work for me. Former professional skateboarder, movies that broke box office records. I remember at one point I said, I'll do the geographical change, that will work. So what does any good alcoholic do? How do they fix a problem? I chose to move to Finland, because that's going to cure me. They don't even speak my language. I can really go there, regroup, rebrand. But the thing that I realized is like I can't shake my shadow. I take me with me everywhere I go, and I find myself in a really nice hotel at the lobby bar, drinking bottle after bottle of wine, shooting dope in the bathroom, with myself, by myself, crying to myself. All because like I lack the ability to accept personal responsibility. Now, the jackass world says, you can't be a part of our deal anymore. I say, why? Like, you need me. Once again, like a skateboarding career, you need me. I am an asset. I am willing to do things that other people won't do. In reality, once again, I became a liability because A, will I show up for a flight? B, if I show up for a flight, what condition am I going to be in? C, if we do give them this opportunity, it's the same thing that's going to happen the last time, where we have to kick the bathroom door and we find him dead on the ground with a needle hanging out of his arm. So, all else fails, I run back to rehab, right? And I get out, I build things up a bit more, and I still want no parts of this. I want no part of recovery, sobriety. I don't want a sponsor. I don't want the fellowship. I don't want the steps in my life. But when I go to these meetings, I see like my sponsor's wedding ring on his finger. I see when he laughs, he's sincerely happy. When his phone rings, it's his kids on the phone saying, Daddy, when are you coming home? I remember that. I'm not so quick to listen when someone says, you need to do this. So I end up writing this book, right? Because I'm coming around just enough to like save my face, pay a few bills, and I write this book. And this book that I write is an autobiography addiction memoir. It does very well. It's a New York Times bestseller. And that delusional world I told you about, now I'm like really in the delusional world because I'm getting hundreds of thousands of letters from all over the world of you saying thank you. I read your book. I didn't want my story to get as bad as yours. I have 30 days. Of you saying thank you. Now I understand why my wife picks the needle and we're coming to pick the kids up. Of you saying thank you. Now I understand why my son's disease is a disease and he's not doing this to be vindictive. I'm saving people's lives now. My mind tells me I just wrote the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the basic text of Narcotics Anonymous, which is like the cornerstone of our foundation. And I can't understand why, like, I can help you guys, but I can't keep a needle out of my arm or a bottle out of my hand. And I'm the kind of alcoholic when I'm drinking, man. It's like I want to kill myself on a daily basis, but the problem is that I don't want to hurt myself in the process. So I stay in this weird, like, purgatory state where strap me up to a polygraph, I'll pass it. Tomorrow is going to be different. I will not use tomorrow. I mean it. I'll pass it with flying colors. Come tomorrow, whenever my higher power chooses to open my eyes, no defense against me in that first one. I'm stuck in Groundhog Day. Over and over and over and over. And so I come home from this tour, I go on tour, I do 27 countries in 29 days. All I want to do is like come home to my then fiance, and I want to like get a shower, take these dirty clothes off, you know, have a glass of wine, paint a bed, play with my cats, and I get up and I put the keys in the door, my keys don't work. Kick the door in, and my house is completely empty. I had taken this woman hostage for the better part of 8 to 9 years. Beautiful woman, loved her with all I had. And those were my intentions, to let her know that I loved her. My actions dictated when she went to sleep, I would steal her car. When I was out of the country, I would cheat on her. You know, my vision was so distorted that like, the abnormal became the normal. It got to a point in my career where I used to say I lost things. I didn't lose anything. I know exactly where they went. I happily and willingly gave them to you for $10. And if you had 5, have it. Because I have 5 and we'll go half. Because the reality is anything between me and that next one, disease untreated, must and will go. My family fits into a bag of heroin. My career fits into a bag of heroin. My now ex-fiance, you guys fit into a bag of heroin. Anything that helps me get one more must and will go. So now I find myself on the corner of Baltimore City streets, selling my body for $40. It's not even my thing. Don't even go that way, but when the disease calls, I answer with no defense against me in that first one. I'm very upfront forward with my story, and I am that way because I've seen in my past of 24 years of active addiction, I start getting some accessories from the program that I work, such as like a career, a bank account, a woman, a house, a car, phones, all that stuff. And I'm very quick to forget where I come from. When I forget where I come from, every time I end right back up in that same position. So I keep it up front. And I've met tonight several mothers who have lost their sons. And in this program that I choose to work, there's a common saying that some of us have to die for others to live. And truth be told, that's kind of the truth. Because like their sons that they've lost allowed me to live. With me being here tonight, God willing, plant a seed in one person's head to maybe help them leave here tonight and not make that one bad decision where, God willing, there's another mother going to a son or daughter's funeral. But with the stigma being lifted, it doesn't have to be that way anymore, because this disease of mine, it doesn't discriminate. Yale or jail, outhouse or the White House, the results are all the same. And it's no longer the neighbor's kid. So the neighbor's kid brush it under the rug and shh. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending upon one's perception, man, everyone's getting the term right now. So, around this time, I get a phone call from my mother. I love my mother more than anything in this world. My mother never gave up on me. And at the end, I watched the interview that she did. And she said, in the beginning, I used to pray not to get that phone call. I prayed not to get that phone call. Please don't let me get that phone call. To in the end, praying for that phone call. Just to have a peace of mind. Right? And after she had exhausted all opportunities, options, and resources, she went to the pastor of her church, and she said, Father, I have to tell you, my prayers consist of this. God, cure him, kill him, or kill me. Can't take it anymore. And the father screamed at her. He said, Pat, don't you ever talk like that. It's not too late, he's still breathing. My mother didn't see it at the time, I didn't see it at the time. I kind of welcomed death at that time, because then like the fight will be over. Then I could actually relax and have a peace of mind. But the thing is, I hadn't hit that point where I received the gift of desperation, because that's truly what it was for me, a gift of desperation. So doing a bit more due diligence, seeing if I could like shuck and jive with this disease of addiction of mine, trying to do it successfully, I was beaten into a state of reasonableness. I had been beaten into a state of submission time after time after time, but then I would get a plan B, a choice, or an option, and that state of submission kind of fell by the wayside. Because not having a plan B, a choice, or an option, I would go to jail. You know, my father taught me how to go, how to conduct myself if and when I went to prison. And see, my disease, when I think of my disease of addiction, it takes me two places. It takes me to the street corners of Baltimore City with a needle hanging out my arm, doing anything for $10. Or it takes me to that plot that my mother bought me. Yes, it also takes me to jail and to rehab. But like, I excel in places like that. Not that I'm a tough guy and I can do jail well, but I can go in there, I can get a shower, I can brush my teeth, I can form a cognitive sentence, and I can sell my family these dreams. And when they say, Brandon, we love you, Brandon, we believe in you, Brandon, here's some clothes for you, I internalize that as I got you for $10 more. So, So I get a phone call from my mother, and she said, Brandon, this is around the time when the police killed that young black man, Freddie Gray, in Baltimore. That's like 12 blocks from where my mother lives. At the time, Baltimore City was like the purge. They were robbing, they were looting, they were shooting, they were stealing. They were lighting police cars on fire, they were burning blocks down. I love my mother more than anything in this world. Anything. I would do anything for her. I would take every bullet in the world for her. I'd give her my heart, my arms, my legs, your hearts, your arms, your legs. I would do that. But God forbid she asked me to do one simple thing. Please don't say those God forbidden words. Don't ask me not to drink or drive. I can't do that. Not that I can, it's that I won't allow myself to. So she calls me and she tells me she's like scared. So my intentions are to go down there and take care of my mother. My actions dictate I get down to Baltimore, I go up in this room, and I leave once a day to go buy $180 worth of heroin and cocaine. This was a very fun concept for me to grasp. The answer to any and all of my problems was heroin or wine. That was the answer to everything. I love you, I shoot up. You cheat on me, I shoot up. You die, I shoot up. You're born, I shoot up. You move me to Africa, I shoot up. You take me to Vermont, I shoot up. Now the answer to any and all of my problems for 24 years, somewhere along the lines became the root to all my problems. And then to take it a step further, the answer, which is now the root of my problems, doesn't even work anymore. It doesn't even work. It does not work. I would wake up in that bedroom and I'd be so angry with my eyes open because I had $180. I had to go dodge the National Guard. I had to go into the city in areas that I had no business being in to get this substance, to get back, to put it in my body, to not even be able to escape the reality that I have created for myself. Wow, what do I do now? I'm 35 years old. I was a professional skateboarder. I've been in these movies that break box office records. New York Times bestseller. In theory, on paper, very successful individual. In reality, I live at my mother's house at 35. My worldly possessions consist of 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, and a stick of deodorant, which all fits into a bag that I use as a pillow. And I can't even escape this reality with the substance anymore because it no longer works. Because I know this is a self-induced prison that I've created for myself because I couldn't accept the reality that I created. So I get a phone call from my best friend, Matt Margera, and he said, look, we're gonna go do a 1.5 month long tour of the Gold Coast in Australia. If you could just drink wine, you'll do great. I'm immediately furious because I've been to Australia before and I don't have the ability to ration or portion out my intake of substances. And I brought what I needed for the first tour, and when the time zone changed, it's like a 2.5-day flight. By the time I landed, I was on empty and I couldn't score in Australia. I was immediately resentful for this, but I had nothing else going on. I'm living at my mother's. I'm literally killing her. Because when I use, people have to leave me for the safety of themselves and myself as well. The intentions are, okay, I'll do this. I jump on a train from Baltimore and I go to Philadelphia and I stop in this rough part of town. I buy a whole bunch of heroin. I get to Van's house and he said, come upstairs, I'll show you some footage that I'm editing. I go upstairs and I go to pull a cigarette out and all my heroin falls out. And he said, you're not going on tour and you're not staying in my house, get out. It was like I had just hit the Mega Millions. Because now I told you anything between me and that one must and will go. I jump back on the train, I get back to Baltimore, happy as can be. Knock on my mother's door. I'll never forget this night as long as I live, man. I said, Mom, congratulations, the tour's canceled. I'm here to take care of you a bit more. She said, Brandon, no, it's not. 10:30 on a Wednesday night, standing on her stoop. She said, no, it's not. They've called and told me everything. Now, mind you, the last time that I lived with my mother was 17. I worked really hard to escape Baltimore City, created what some might say is a very successful life. Only for her, one more thing. You know, when I used to go back, she would parade me around Little Italy, and I would take pictures with the neighbors, and I would sign autographs, and I built her hopes up really high, and now on that stoop of her house, she just looked at me with that heartache and pain, despair, and misery. Once again, fully self-induced, I created this. While I was gone that day, she called my hotshot attorney brother over to her house. They went up in that room that I left once a day for 3 months, and it was like a murder scene in there. There was blood on the ceilings, there was blood on the walls, there were baggies, there were needles, there were cookers. Her and my brother served a restraining order against me. She said, "Brandon, I will no longer love you to death." I couldn't be mad at her. Once again, they had to leave me for the safety of themselves and myself, a liability. My friends have left the country. My family has served a restraining order against me. I find myself roaming the streets of Baltimore City. 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, and a stupid deodorant in a bag that doubles my pillow, and I end up in the same exact abandoned house that I left 10 years ago. They tore most of them down. I believe God left that one up just to kind of show me a healthy reminder. Nothing had changed in that house except the faces. While I'm sitting in this shooting gallery, someone contacted me on social media, this woman. And she said, "Brandon, I've read your book, it saved my life. Why don't you come on an all-exclusive day trip to Fort Lauderdale?" I said, "All right, but I need some heroin, some cocaine, some Xanax, and some wine." She said, "Okay." All right, I pride myself on being a smart, inquisitive, articulate alcoholic who doesn't miss much, right? So that's red flag number 1. I saved her life, but she's going to give me substances to take mine. That's weird. I do a bit more research. I find she lives in a hotel. I'm assuming she's a lady of the night or a dancer, which I'm completely cool with, because I've seen me become both of those things for $10. This is where the problem lies. She has 2 requirements that I must fulfill. When I get out there, she wants to party, she wants to make love. When I shoot heroin, I do neither, I sleep. And I know how this is going to play out. Not to mention, I'm due to see my PO in Westchester, Pennsylvania tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. My alcoholic mind says it's going to be okay tomorrow, but right now you need to get to Fort Lauderdale to get that. I'm supposed to be in Pennsylvania, I'm supposed to have a clean urine, I'm supposed to be at her house at 8:30 a.m. I'm now in BWI Airport in Baltimore. I'm about to fly to Fort Lauderdale. If I give a urinalysis, it's going to light up like a Christmas tree. My mind tells me tomorrow's going to be different. But before I leave that shooting gallery, I go and I got to buy some stuff to take with me to Fort Lauderdale because I can't get sick on the flight. And mind you, I have to see my PO tomorrow. I still believe in my heart of hearts I'm going to make this appointment. So I have these nice dress slacks on. I have these at once word nice Brooks Brothers shoes on, but I lost a shoestring along the way somewhere. And I have this button-up shirt. So when I go to see the boys to get what I need, they see fit to rob me as opposed to give me what I need. And I don't wear underwear at that time because I don't have time to take care of underwear. I don't have time to wash, and that takes up time between me and getting high, so that must and will go. But when they rob me, they rip my pockets out. So now my front and my back are completely hanging about. They rip my shirt, and the only button that's buttoned is like this very top button. So I'm running around the streets of East Baltimore looking like a homosexual East LA Cholo gang member. And I get to the airport because I need to get what I need to get. When I get to the airport, I get in the line. The 2 things that I've learned in my career, I can never win an argument with a judge or TSA airport security. It does not work that way. When I get up to the line, the lady looks at me, she said, "Mr. Novak, are you under the influence of anything?" I said, "No." She said, "I believe you are, and you will not fly for 72 hours. What happened was God dressed up in the form of a TSA airport security woman and did for me what I could not do for myself because I did not want to board that flight because I knew how it was going to play out. My father taught me if you want to go to prison how to conduct myself, but I tend to show up for court dates because I can't get high in prison. So I get out of line. In reality, anyone dressed the way I was dressed would not be allowed to board a flight anywhere. I get out of line, I text my sponsor, I said, Lex, I'm stranded at BWI Airport, and my dad is looking like a really good option right now. He said, no, you're gonna get on a train, we're gonna pick you up, we're gonna take you to see a PO, we're gonna take you to a rehab. And I do those things. And when I get to the rehab, I've been to the same rehab 4 times previously. I've been to 13 inpatient treatment centers. I've lost count of outpatients and detoxes. The reason why I kept coming back is because people never stopped doing for me what I could not do for myself. When I wanted to ride to a meeting, they would pick me up. Sober, not sober. High, not high. When I tried to get to a treatment center, they did what they had to do to find me a bed. People never told me no. And if they told me no, it was because there was no resources available. It wasn't because they were angry that I just could not grasp this. So, I do that, I get to an outpatient place, and I'm sitting with all my belongings, and I'm in a fetal position that my detox allows me to visit quite often. And the director walks out and he said, Mr. Novak, is that you? I said, yeah. He said, what happened the last time I saw you? You were a while on your way to the airport en route to Paris. I said, yeah. He said, what happened? I said, I thought one more glass of wine would turn out different. I really believed it. He said, come in my office. I go into his office, lay on his floor. He's filling my paperwork out for me because I can't fill it out myself. And he says, his assistant comes and she says, Charles, we cannot take him. He's a walk-in. This woman has been waiting for this bed for 2 weeks. He says, go outside. I go out front, I'm digging cigarette butts out. I just have to go and get one drag off this, one drag off that, and then come out and say, we got you a bed. So I get to this rehab, and I sit in the same chair, talking to the same woman, having the same conversation that I've had 4 previous times in my career. And she said, okay, Mr. Novak, your insurance will cover 90 days. And I'd say, in theory, that sounds great, but in reality, I'm more of like a 45-day kind of fella. Because I have this place to see, this job to fulfill, this woman to do. And she laughed at me every time. She said, sweetheart, you have no idea. Anything and everything you put in front of your recovery does not and will not matter because you will lose it. Now, see, I had heard that the first 4 previous attempts. So when I sat in here this time, I thought to myself, maybe this lady knows what she's talking about. When she said the same old song and dance, she was probably expecting the same old song and dance from me, and all I could do was just shake my head, yeah. I couldn't say no, because if I said no, that entailed an explanation. I was too weak to give her that. She said, we can't do your intake, let's get you up to rehab. We'll detox you, we'll see how things work out, get you in 4 days. I get up to rehab, and they take one look at me and they say, Brandon, like your clothes are not rehab oriented. You need underwear, you need sweatpants. Fact of the matter was, I've never prayed so hard in my life for such simple articles of clothing, but I did not own them. So they took me downstairs to the donation bin. And they're looking for a pair of 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 10th hand pair of underwear, and I'm praying to God they have them. They don't have them. What they have is a pair of size 40 women's sweatpants with no drawstring. They have a pair of size 14 Jesus sandals and a woman's tank top. I'd never been so grateful for such simple articles of clothing because I just wanted to feel normal again because I was living on an animalistic level for so many years. And I remember them. Once again, I had learned this. And I told you I don't want to learn things because now I'm to be accountable for my own actions. I remember them saying, Brandon, I'm grateful alcoholic will never drink again. I was never too grateful before because I could make a phone call to who I needed, for what I needed, and have it brought to me wherever I was. This time, none of that was happening. So I get up there, and I do what's requested of me. If they told me to stand on my head, when I get up there, my counselor walks in, she says, Brandon, you're back with us again. I said, yes. She said, if you play your cards right, today can be the best day of your life. And I looked at her, I said, Christina, do you need a urinalysis? Do you see the position that I'm in right now? You have lost your mind. She laughed. She said, if you play your cards right, today can be the best day of your life. Looking back on it now, that day was the best day of my life. I had a lot of cool accomplishments in my career. A lot of external things that one would think happiness brings. They didn't. That day, the worst/best day of my life is a decision that I think it's impossible for me to regret. So I get into this treatment center, they say, Brandon, we know, because I have another project going on, they're doing a timeline for my events. And my first arrest was in New York City at 17 for possession of heroin. He said, you've been actively, you've given up everything in the world for one thing for 20 years. I got arrested at 17. I walked into this treatment center 20 years later to the day. You've given up everything in this world for one thing for 20 years. make a deal with us. You're here for 90 days, let's give up that one thing and see what you get. I said, okay, you got that. If I would have made a list of what I wanted in those 90 days, I would have undersold myself dramatically. My mother called me 6 months back. She said, Brandon, I hate when you come to visit. I said, why? She said, because I get so sad when you leave. I was unemployable when I came in. Now I'm the owner of a business and I'm in the field of helping people that are struggling, you people that I want to be a part of. I'm actually in the business of doing that. Sobriety has given me everything that alcohol and drugs have promised me. You couldn't put a price tag on what I have in here today. And I know that anything is possible despite any and all adverse consequences that come my way. As long as I don't drink a drug, like I got a shot. I know it. My past dictates that. I'm going to end with a story. There's a father that works from home. He works from home. He's got this son that keeps banging him on his knee. Dad, take out the play, take out the play, take out the play. The father's swamped at work. He's trying to think of something that'll buy him 8 hours a day or two to get his work done. He sees a big picture of a puzzle of the world map on his desk. The father thinks to himself, I got it. He takes the big puzzle apart and he throws it on the floor. He says, son, when you put this puzzle back together, I'll take you out to play. The father surely thinking he bought 8 hours, 1 day, 2 days, etc. 20 minutes later, the son comes back and he said, Dad, I put it back together. The father's like, no way. The father walks into his office and sure enough, the son put the big picture of the puzzle of the world map back together. He looks at his son and said, son, how did you do that? He said it was very simple. On the back of the picture of the puzzle of the world map was a picture of the man. I put the man back together, the world fell back to place. Together we stand, divided I die. My name is Brandon. Thank you for listening. That wasn't the kind of reaction I used to get 16 months ago, I assure you that.
Okay, so now we're going to have some members come up with the community on a panel. And if the panel members want to come up and sit down, we will have them talk a little bit and have some questions and answers. So we have Jeannette Birch and Missy Zabrowski-Morin. And if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and this topic is why this topic is important to you, and share, your concern for the community and for everyone.
I had to write this up because I'm not very good about ad-libbing as good as Brandon, so bear with me as I read. Thank you everyone, first of all, for coming tonight. Thank you to the people that put this on. Thank you, Brandon, for coming to speak. And thank you all for taking a stand against this drug epidemic in the Northeast Kingdom. Let's remove the stigma. Let's remove the shame. And let's help people heal. So I want to see a show of hands if anyone ever had a dream about what they wanted to be when they grew up. About everyone. Raise your hand if that dream ever included being addicted to drugs. Got one. dreamed their child would be addicted to drugs. Me either. My son Gary was a kind young man whose presence was felt by everyone who knew him. His fun-loving personality and his contagious smile made him stand out in the crowd. If you were grumpy or you were sad, he was going to make you laugh. He would do anything for anyone, and he was loved by a lot of people. Sadly, he lost his battle with addiction the day after Easter, March 28th, 2016. As I was putting dinner on the table, 2 state police cars drove in my driveway. My heart sank. I felt sick. They knocked on my door, and they told me that Gary was dead. The unimaginable. It couldn't possibly be true. He had told us, I can do this on my own. It's not like I woke up one day and decided to be a drug addict. And he also said, I will never, ever use again. Why was my son's life not spared? Why did he have to die? Those were the questions I asked myself, and I asked God as I went to the church after planning his funeral and sobbed. Why am I here to share my story? Because I asked God that day, when I was so mad, and I was so angry, and it was so wrong. Just use me. I don't want my son's death to be in vain. I don't want another parent to lose their child. I don't want another life lost. Trust is the word that keeps coming back to me. Trust in God's plan. God, the great physician, is fixing my heart. Sometimes we allow the voice of the enemy to speak louder than our Father. Those voices that say, I'll never recover, or what that person did, I could never forgive them. You can forgive. You can get back up. You can move forward with your life. God can fix your problem. I look at how I worked through the pain of losing my son this spring, and now I had to get myself back up. As I look back now, I see how God has been preparing me for 6 years. And I see how He's carried me through this. God showed me His love. He showed me His hope. He showed me His power to heal. And He showed me my purpose for life. That in this horrible brokenness, He would give me strength to reach out to you. I look and see what the Lord has done for me wants to do the same for you. He wants you to begin to hope again. He wants you to believe again. He wants you to trust again. The great physician, our Father, through Jesus, who is healing my broken heart, wants to do the same for you. He can and he will change hearts and change lives in the Northeast Kingdom.
Thank you. Vanessa Raymond, from New York. Do you want to come up and sing a little bit?
So I lost my 32-year-old son on July 19th this year. I was under the assumption that Jeremy had been clean for 4.5 years. None of us had any idea. I'm angry at everyone and everything. I blame the stigma for a lot of it because I think that if they weren't made to feel shame, then maybe reaching out and getting help would be easier. As Jeannette said, it's every parent's worst nightmare. Ironically enough, prior to the job that I have now, I was a chemical dependency counselor in New York. Part of the reason that I had to get done at that job was when my first client overdosed. It wrecked me. I'd only been at the job that I'm at now for 8 days when I got the call that my son died. There needs to be more resources. We need to let people know that with addiction that they're not a junkie, it's a person with an illness. We wouldn't look down our noses at someone that has cancer. It's no different. You heard Brandon say, it comes before anything. I know in my heart that Jeremy loved me and all of our family and Katie and everybody with all his heart. And he never intended to lose his life. But that's the power of addiction. It just gets him. And so I came today to try to be his voice, to let you know that my son was an amazing man. He loved his sister and his brother and all his nieces and nephews and his aunt and everybody. And he would want to help others. So if nothing else I've learned through this, that we just have to help one another and don't look down your noses at them. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to be an addict today. My son held a job. He was a contributing member to society. It knows no boundaries. So please, if you know someone that needs help, reach out to them. And if you're somebody that needs help, hold your head up high and go get help.
So we have Andrew Leducer from Coventry with to speak.
All right, guys. So my name is Andrew Leducer. I've had problems with addiction myself in my life. I was a cocaine, ecstasy, and OxyContin addict for a long time. And like Brandon said, it comes over everything in your life. You put aside everything. You love everything unconditionally, but there's that one thing that you absolutely need, and you'll do anything to get it. I got to a point in my addiction where I wouldn't go as to rob family members or anything like that, but I would commit criminal acts, robbing drug dealers, things like that, and just to get my next fixed and not be sick and not just hate my life and want to die. And one day I got involved with some really bad people in a different state just to get my fix, and had a pretty big drug debt, and there was some threats on my life and family's lives and stuff, and I was pretty much forced to do a crime that I regret to this very day and will regret for the rest of my life. And it affected everybody in my community, not just me, my friends, my family. It affected every single person in this community, and I'm actually thankful that I got caught for that crime. I did 4 years in jail for that, and still on probation for another 5 years for that same crime. But being caught for that crime actually saved my life, and it made me realize that there's more important things in life than just getting that next fix. There's you got your family, you got your kids. You don't want to see your kids grow up to become addicts like you yourself may have been, or somebody that you know have been. Just this year alone, I've had almost a dozen of my friends drop dead from heroin overdoses. I had to put a few of them in the ground, and a lot of them I just wasn't able to go to their funerals. Couldn't bring myself to do it. And this overwhelming epidemic of heroin in this town, this community, it's affected my life, not directly by me, myself, but immediate family members. A cousin of mine moved up here from Connecticut to escape his drug addiction and thinking he was going to save his life and he was going to get clean and come up here. And it wasn't 48 hours after he got up here, he was finding the first dope dealer he could find to get his fix. It in turn ended up me having to just cut ties with him and not talk to him anymore. And now he's got some pretty big charges in the state of Connecticut because he was driving under the influence of ketamine and heroin and almost killed a few people and got pulled over. So hopefully that saves his life. Maybe that opens his eyes or whatnot. Other than that, I've had other close family members, that it's ruined relationships in my life. It's that one drug, that heroin, has come in between my marriage and my wife. I've held her hand for a year and a half now while she struggled with addiction. She hasn't taken a step into rehab on those lines. She's gone into the BART clinic, gotten help that way, and it's been working. And I'm very proud of her. She's been doing really good. And no matter what, I'm never going to give up. Not on my wife, not on anybody else in this whole community. I don't care if I even know you. If you need help, I'm on Facebook all the time. You look me up. You send me a message, I'll accept your message request. If you feel you need somebody just to be an inspiration, I'm here. October 15th, 2010 was the last day I used any cocaine, ecstasy, or any opiates of any kind.
That's awesome.
I've been through that and I'm not, so if I can do it, you can do it. Thank you guys.
We have Mitt Lyman. Do you have to speak?
So my name is Mitt Lyman. I was born April 28th, 1993. I was adopted out of Fort Worth, Texas. Currently live with my parents in West Clover, Vermont. They own a farm. I can always remember being a little kid and, when you watch your Disney movies or whatever, I always found it intriguing like, I like the bad guys. I like the whole rebel image of everything. So my whole life, I kind of felt the need that I needed to have that bad boy image. Be like the cool kids, and the cool kids do drugs, and the cool kids smoke weed, and they drink every weekend. So when I went into high school is kind of when it all began. I can recall the first time I actually got drunk. I had a blast. I liked it a lot. I felt really good. So, of course, the next opportunity I got to do that, I jumped right on it. I got hooked up with a group of people that I could get alcohol fairly easy from. And I didn't drink I didn't have 2 or 3 beers and set it down like some people can do. Every time I drank, I was getting drunk. And it led to the point where I was drinking by myself. It turned into an everyday thing. It wasn't, like, whenever I wasn't at work, I was drinking beer or using some substance. I was 20 years old, I got introduced to cocaine, tried that, loved it. Loved it so much. I could combine that with beer, I was having a blast. So that, I had to get some of that every weekend when I was drinking to go to my parties, because, alcohol makes me feel good, cocaine makes me feel a little better, so why not combine them? So that went on for a few years, progressed, got worse and worse. Instead of one day a weekend, it was 2 nights a weekend, here and there during the week. Mind you, I was drinking just about every day this whole time too. And then I found out that I was going to be a father. So of course, the first thing you're going to want to do, get clean and sober, right? For your kid, be there for your family. So that's what I was going to do. I set myself up to go to rehab in California, because I figured if I ran away from all the people up here, all my problems, they'll disappear. So I got to the rehab. Well, I managed to make it out to California by myself. I've never been in the airport before. I'm surprised I didn't get lost. So I made it up to California. That was a long day. It was like a 12-hour flight. Got to this rehab. And I'm halfway across the country. I don't know anybody. But the people there were fairly welcoming. So I got connected pretty quick, and they all had the same problem that I did. So that's where I got introduced to AA and NA. I wasn't really that into the NA at the time, because I figured my main problem was drinking. So yeah, I had a pretty open mind when I got introduced to it. Obviously, I didn't take it that seriously at first. Well, I was out of the rehab for 30 days. Flew home after, and I was all cured. Or I thought I was all cured. All I had to do was go to this rehab center for 30 days, listen to what they had to tell me, and then I know everything, I'm good. Well, I managed to stay sober long enough to see the birth of my son, which was the happiest day of my life. That kid means the world to me. So I stayed sober for, I don't remember, it was couldn't have been any longer than 2 months when I got back from the rehab. So now I'm a dad, I got a kid. I'm not married, but I got a girlfriend. We live in a house together. We're all happy. Got the American dream right there in the handbasket. I remember one day we were going to this wedding, a friend of mine's wedding, and I pulled into the store, and I bought a 12-pack of beer out of nowhere. I didn't plan this, I didn't. So anyways, I had it in my head that I can drink and use drugs recreationally like a quote-unquote normal person. I can have a couple beers, I can stop whenever I want. Well, that didn't last very long. Well, I got drunk at that wedding, by the way. Woke up, had to go to work the next week. After work, I said, well, I had a beer, I've already had some beer, so why not just go to the store and buy some beer? I won't do any drugs, I'll just drink for the rest of my life. I'll be good. I'll be like everybody else, just drink. So I go to the store, I buy a 6-pack, and I tell myself, I'm not going to drink any more than 3 of these. I did that. I didn't drink any more than 3. Second day, did the same thing. Didn't drink any more than 3. And it wasn't long after that, 3 turned into 6, and I'm buying a 12-pack. 12-pack turned into 18. And 18-pack turned into a 30-pack and an 8-ball of cocaine. Right back where I started. And then, so anyways, that went on. Me and the girl I was dating at the time had splitting up. And I was not allowed to see my son for, I think it was a month or whatever. So this is ripping the shit out of my mind. I'm emotionally completely broken. I've just lost everything that I thought, everything that I had that was good. I felt I was a failure as a father, and I felt just about worthless. So I got the whole house to myself, I'm living alone. So of course, what am I gonna do when I'm there? Got all that free time now. Start drinking, doing my drugs, going to the bar. Did that for... Meanwhile, all this time, I'm trying to put on this facade to everybody else that I'm all right, I'm doing fine. You know, I went to rehab, I'm good. Oh, I'm just drinking, it's no big deal. And you know, people, I assume they didn't really think it was that big of a deal because they only saw me drinking. I don't know. No one said anything to me about it. So anyways, I did that, went on doing that, regular routine, and then feeling really miserable one day, I was in a situation where I was with a couple people that happened to be shooting up heroin. And I'd always said my entire life, I won't use a needle. I'll never do heroin. I'm better than that, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I ended up doing it. And all the pain disappeared. I didn't have to worry about feeling like a piece of shit. I didn't have to feel any shit I had in here. I didn't feel it because the heroin took it away. Completely numb. And it didn't take long for my tolerance to build up, meaning that I had to do more and more of it in order not to get sick. And I knew this whole time that this is something I really don't And I don't know if I can, it's not that I didn't care. It was just, I don't know, it was just something I was used to. Drugs and alcohol were the only thing I knew to go to when I was upset or anything wasn't going right. I turned to drugs and alcohol because they made me feel good. So, meantime, I got this hidden from everybody. This is early on. You know, we live in a small area. You can't do anything without everybody knowing. So word started to get out a little bit. I had people ask me, "Are you using heroin? You know, are you doing this? Are you doing that?" And of course, I'm gonna say, "No way. I'd never. Not me. I wouldn't do that. I'm not doing that." And I was doing that. This disease is really insane, and I can tell you, when I was sitting there in my self-pity or whatever, feeling bad for myself, you know, I'd always say that life's not fair, you know, life's not fair. Well, I'm pretty glad that life isn't fair, because if life was fair, I would not be standing here right now talking to you people. I overdosed on heroin 4 times. The first time, scared to try not to swear so much. Scared the crap right out of me. So I figured that was a good time to stop. So, you know, I was gonna stop. I went a day, 2 days, starting to feel shitty. 3rd day, you feeling awful. You know, I'm not sleeping at all. At first, I didn't know like what withdrawal did to you, because I'd never gone through it. It's awful. It's really, really awful. I remember I woke up in a pool of sweat and wondering, where did this come from? Like, why? It's winter time. Why am I sweating so much? And then it hit me. I said, oh no, I'm addicted to heroin. So, you know, I did all the stuff that kind of goes along with that. I blew a good chunk of my money on it. I've stolen money to get it. I've lied to people. I used to lie all the time, just to kind of make people think that I'm doing okay, you know. So, more about my overdoses. Either the second or third time, I don't remember which time. Right after I woke up from that, the first thing I did was go load up that needle again and shoot myself up again, because I didn't feel like I was high enough. That's how insane this thing is. What led me to get sober today? So I'm on probation at this time, and I had to go see my probation officer for the first time. And of course, you gotta take a piss test for that. I figured that if I stop, I looked it up on Google, because Google knows everything, you know. How long does it take heroin to get out of your system? You know, there was a bunch of different answers, and they were saying, oh, go get some Gatorade and this other drink and all this stuff. So I go to CNC and I buy all this stuff, thinking that I'm gonna sneak my way, I'm gonna weasel my way out of this one too. So I'm doing all that, thinking that I'm gonna get away with it. So the girl I was with at the time kind of was catching on to my crap there. So she said, if I go get, I don't know what they call them, but it's like a home urine test or whatever. You pee in the cup tells you if you're clean or if you're dirty. And of course someone said, oh yeah, I'll pass that with flying colors, nothing to worry about. And I said, oh, I'm not gonna pass this test. So I'm pounding water and all that stuff, thinking that I'll be fine. Well, I failed the test. So she knew that I was an addict. My parents have no idea. They have no idea. So I said I'd get clean, I'd get sober. But I didn't want to go to rehab again because I don't want everybody knowing that I had to go to rehab twice or I'm back doing my stuff, screwing my life up some more. So I was gonna do this at home. I was just gonna lay in my bed, tell people I was sick, because I was sick, just not the right kind of sick, and ride this out, get it over with. And I'm really glad that I didn't, because I probably wouldn't be here today. So I'm laying in bed, sweating, puking, all that good withdrawal stuff. And I just happened to pick my phone up, turn it on. Don't ask me how this happened, I don't know. But there, the first thing I see on the phone is a picture of my little boy. And that's all it took for me. I was done. So I called the rehab center again. This one was in Vermont. It's called the Serenity House. Great place. And I'm off to rehab again. That one was I only stayed there for about 3 weeks and then got my certificate and stuff. Couldn't stay for any longer than that because insurance, all that good stuff. So I got back with a whole new attitude. You know, I'm gonna do this. I'm not gonna die. I'm gonna be a good father. I'm gonna be a good person. So I did what they told me to do this time. But this time I tried NA, gave NA a shot. What helps keep me sober today is that program is the key for me. Not because you just go in there and talk about don't do drugs, drugs are bad, don't do drugs. That program it's taught me how to live sober. How to act like a decent person and be, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but just how to live life without wrecking yourself, you know? So this time around, I've started completely over. I changed my phone number. That doesn't really help any because I have Facebook. I stopped hanging around the people that I used to hang around. Not to stand up here and say that they're bad people. I just can't be around them. I can't put myself in any situation where I could get a hold of drugs. And for the time being, I tend to stay out of situations where there's alcohol around or alcohol involved. I don't have enough time under my belt yet for that. Yeah, so NA helps keep me sober. I go to the Church of God every Sunday morning, listen to Pastor Larry. He really helps me a lot. He's in recovery himself. And you want to hear a guy talk that knows about life, it's that guy. So just being active in that and doing stuff like this helps me out too. Like talking to people, trying to help out people, trying to give people a little bit of inspiration, knowing that a young person like me can live life just fine without drugs and alcohol. Lost my train of thought. Yeah, NA, church, reaching out to people. You know, 7 months ago, I would have never thought I'd be standing here talking to people about how to be sober. It's because 7 months ago it was a miracle for me to go 24 hours sober. But my life today is awesome. You know, it's not all wild and crazy and really wild and crazy and exciting, but I get through it. I'm not done yet, by the way, sorry. Yeah, I probably should wrap it up. Anyway, my life is great today. I'm the father I need to be. I'm the good friend I need to be. And I'm just an honest person that I need to be. And thank everybody for coming, and it's a real honor to be up here talking to you guys.
So now we have Travis Blake from Newport.
My name is Travis Blake. I'm 29 years old. I was born and raised right here in Newport, Vermont. I attended the high school that we sit in right now, and I graduated in 2005. By now, most of the people here tonight are aware of why we're here. This quaint little town that I grew up in has changed a lot since I was a young boy. Drugs, opiates, specifically seem to have taken this area into a chokehold that we can't break free of. My drug story isn't unlike many that I'm sure you've heard in the past. I didn't really start to use drugs until after I got out of high school. But like most, it started small with marijuana, and it quickly progressed to harder drugs like cocaine and Percocet. It didn't take me long using before I realized that pills were my drug of choice. In the beginning, I only used on the weekends or at parties. It seemed to make life more interesting, a little more exciting. And before I knew it, it was turning into me using at work, at home. I've always been good at manipulating situations in my favor. It was a long time before any of my friends or family knew that I had a drug problem. Percocet, Vicodin is what most people start with. It wasn't long, and they just weren't doing it for me anymore. It was harder and harder to get pills in the area. They became more and more expensive, and like most people, I turned to heroin. It was cheaper, it was readily available, and it seemed to pack more punch for the dollar. I had had convinced myself that as long as I didn't shoot heroin, I was okay. For some reason, the word heroin, even before I started to use it, had just a darkness that surrounded it. It was always just, I mean, I knew drugs were bad, but heroin just, you didn't really have anywhere to go from there. I snorted it for a while, and it didn't take long before I became an IV user. I was with the same girl for almost 10 years. We have a beautiful 4-year-old boy together, and I was able to maintain a job, make sure my bills were paid, and still support my habit without really setting off any red flags in my family. Started to lose weight. I was irritable. The days that I wasn't able to use, the withdrawal symptoms would kick in, and it just got so bad that I couldn't hide it anymore. And when my family and significant other did find out, it was such a shock to them. I'm not sure how exactly they took it, but I knew it wasn't anything that they expected. My addiction had gotten so deep that the lies that I had told, I was having to take time and actually think about the lies that I was telling just to try to keep the cycle going. I wasn't sure what lie I had used the previous day to get me out of the situation beforehand. When I started shooting, that's when I really realized that I had an issue. I always thought that I just used drugs because I liked the way they made me feel, that being sober was boring, and I could stop anytime that I wanted to until I actually tried to stop, and I couldn't. I tried to get clean a few times. I entered some NA rooms, talked with some people, but the first time I tried to get clean, it was to get my family off my back, to prove to everybody else that I could do it if I wanted to. But in the back of my mind, I knew that I would just do this long enough where I could make everybody believe that I was better and then just keep using behind their backs, because I was good at that. Eventually, things built up. I shot for about a year. The job that I worked, I make really good money, so it wasn't hard for me to support my habit. I luckily didn't steal from people or my family. I didn't have to go that route. Sorry, just losing my train here. Well, as most of you can probably figure out, towards the end, I couldn't hide it anymore. My significant other, after being with me for 9 years, pretty much me using the entire time, she had enough. She couldn't take the lies anymore, and I don't blame her at all. So when my fiance and kid walked out of my life, that was my wake-up call. Fortunately for me, it wasn't as bad as it has been for some people. I've always had family on my side. They never gave up on me, just like Brandon's mother never gave up on him. My mother is a godsend as well. She really wishes she could be here tonight. I would do anything for her, but they are the reason that I'm here today, the reason that I'm clean today. A lot of the people that have made positive influences on my life are here tonight, and just like Mitt's story, I started going to church. I'm part of the methadone program here in Newport, and I know that there's a lot of stigma that surrounds that type of treatment. Some people feel that it is substituting one drug for another, which, when you break it down, it is. But I can tell you, when I was shooting heroin, I was a meager 125 pounds. I'm not a very big guy, never have been. But today I stand here at 165 pounds, 2 days over, 11 months sober, and addiction has, it started off as, this thing people thought a junkie. When you think the word junkie, it's, a homeless person under a bridge, scratching their neck because they're waiting for the next fix. Addiction doesn't discriminate. It doesn't, It doesn't look at race, gender, anything like that. It'll take anyone and everyone, and it usually does so before you realize what's happening. I have lost some friends, countless friends, and it's just nice to see, not nice to see, that's not the right thing to say, but it's a shame that it's taken it getting this bad for something like this to happen in our area, but I have faith in this community, and I want to do anything that I can to help people that are struggling, because I haven't forgot what it feels like to be in those shoes. I might have made it this far, but it's still a challenge for me. I have my good days and my bad days, just like everybody, but I want to make sure that my child can still come to this high school and make it through his 4 years without having to see people, his classmates, shooting up heroin outside in the parking lot. Because even when I was here, it wasn't like that. It just seemed like all of a sudden in the last few years, mainly heroin has just taken over this area, and it's in middle schools, it's in high schools. I mean, it's scary. It's getting to a point where even somebody like myself who knows what desperation will do to an addict. There were countless times where I just go hide, and as long as I had what I needed, I was fine being by myself. I didn't need anybody. All I needed was the heroin, and it's scary, even knowing what it's like to be an addict. I'm afraid of the life that my child is going to grow up thinking is norm if things continue on the path that they are on right now. There are a lot of people in this community that want to make a difference. They're not really sure how to. All I can say is, if you're wondering how you can help someone who's struggling with addiction, take a stroll over to the methadone clinic any day of the week. There's over 500 people that walk through that place every morning that are struggling in one shape or another. And not all of them are lucky like I am, who have a family and a support circle that would do anything for me. I consider myself one of the lucky ones, and I will do anything that I can to help anybody who needs help. But if anybody who thinks that they want to be a mentor or would like to reach out to somebody and you're not sure where to start, that's a great place to start. It has changed my life, and I have to go to counseling once a month. I meet with my counselor, talk about sober living. There's a quote that my pastor uses, and it's slipped my mind here for a moment, but like, right thinking produces right living. If we all learn how to go about this addiction thing the right way, taking the stigma. I keep hearing that tonight, which is great, because when I first decided to get clean, I was afraid of how everybody would look at me. I don't feel that way anymore, and I'm not ashamed to tell anybody that I used to have track marks up and down my arms. If you ask me, if you meet a sober addict, you meet a warrior, because I know firsthand what it takes.
So now we have Ashley Montague from Newport.
Spelled my name wrong. So my name's Ashley Montague. I don't have anything written or prepared. I really was debating speaking because I get all nervous and freeze up. So this will probably be quick. I did not wake up with a dream to become a drug addict. I never saw that in my big picture ever. Doing heroin or any hard drugs was on the other side of that line. There was always a line in the sand I wouldn't cross. But I do remember the morning I woke up in my state-subsidized apartment with my drug dealer boyfriend, and my children weren't there, they were at their father's. And my boyfriend was at work, and I was in my apartment alone, looking around. I didn't have TV or anything, and I didn't have drugs that morning either. And by the time I had gotten home in the afternoon, and I knew he was coming home, and I realized like, I'm not just sick and I don't have the cold or the flu. I'm withdrawing and starting to feel a little crazy, like I really need these drugs to get through the day. I denied I was in denial. I didn't want to admit that, so I went with the fact that I had the flu. I was convinced I had the flu, and then about 3 hours later, the flu was gone. I felt better, and the day went on, and I tried to totally block out the fact that I think I'm getting addicted to a hard drug, and I just tried to keep my life normal. I have 2 boys who are now 6 and 10, and at the time they were pretty young, so this started 3 years ago. My children were very young, and I thought that as long as I kept my life together, and if I could maintain a job, keep a place, and feed my children, that I could still live with my drug addict boyfriend, who supported any bad choice I made for him or myself. And I don't blame anybody for my drug addiction. He never forced me to do any drugs. That was something I decided to do on my own. It wasn't something I just decided. I just slowly got into that life where I was dependent on a drug and I didn't want anyone to know. So I tried to maintain a normal life, a normal job. I worked at the BART clinic, the methadone clinic. So on my lunch break, I was getting high in my car, and in the afternoon I was helping clients with doctor's appointments. I was totally living 2 separate lives. I didn't think my family knew. I didn't have a lot of friends that knew. It was a totally separate life. I don't remember when my mom and dad actually truly found out that I was addicted to heroin. But I remember my twin sister finding out, and I was ashamed. I would hide. I would not answer texts, calls. I would not answer my door if I saw her driving down the road. Parents locked the door. So I did the total avoid and ignore and it will disappear type deal. I didn't realize that my mom and dad couldn't sleep at night because they didn't know if they were going to get a phone call that I was dead or alive. I didn't realize that my sister would be crying thinking maybe I'm in some hotel room somewhere with a needle in my arm, or maybe I'm on the highway to Connecticut with $10,000 in my pocket to go bring back a life sentence worth of drugs to my friends, or to people that I call friends, just to keep my habit going and to keep myself okay. So I risked the fact of never seeing my children, or not seeing my children, because I could have gone to jail for a very long time. I could have been killed. I could have nodded out behind the wheel. I could have killed somebody else. Now looking back, I think, why didn't I die? Why have so many of my friends this year so quickly just gone? But I played with the devil for years, and it's easy to think when you're high or when it's affecting your life, it's easy to just think it would be easier to be dead and gone. But if I was dead and gone, that's something that my family would have to deal with for the rest of their life, and I never thought of that when I was active. I never thought of that, and I honestly don't think I really cared. All I cared about was not being sick. So fast forward to the last year, I was very deep into my addiction. I've never been a small girl, and I think I was 162 pounds when my sister brought me to rehab the first time. I swear to God, I would never use again. I would never put my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, or my children, or my children's father through that again. I swore to God that I would never use again. And it only took one instance to forget all the pain that I caused for my family, for myself, for my friends. I have a twin sister, and I also have like a best friend twin sister. And when she stopped talking to me, she stopped answering my calls. My sister didn't want to be seen in public with me because she was sick of people asking, "How's your sister?" I saw your sister the other day parked on the side of the road, and she looked like she was sleeping in her car. or just the embarrassment of it all. It was not fun. I relapsed. I used drugs again, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna get high once. I'm not gonna be addicted. I'm not gonna let it run my life. And probably 3 days later, I found myself getting right back on that path to wanting to get high every day, or thinking, oh my God, I'm getting fat. I'm gonna start getting high again. Any stupid excuse. If another friend of mine died, I was gonna get high. If I couldn't get a job this week, I was gonna get high. I would use anything to get high, any excuse to get high. So the 100th time my sister found my needles, found my stash, no matter where I would hide it, she would find it. So the second time I went to rehab, I remember crying and kicking and screaming the whole way. My twin sister, one of my close friends, sat there in the car watching me shoot up for the last time. On my way to rehab, I made them do it. I said, I don't care if you get out of the car, I don't care what you do, that's what I'm going to do. And I was shaking, and I was so desperate for help, but I was so desperate to not be sick and to not go through that deathly illness again. My sister brought me there, she left me there. It's always a hard goodbye. And I was only staying I only want to stay for 7 days, but I suppose if I have to, I'll stay for 14. Somewhere in those 14 days, I convinced myself that if someone was going to invite me on vacation for 3 weeks and give me drugs, all the drugs I wanted, I would go. So if someone was going to invite me to rehab for 3 weeks and give me all the knowledge I needed to get through the rest of this life sober, I decided I would go. So I stayed for 21 days. I got back out of rehab. Life was good. Everything's on the up and up. I'm starting to get things back. Not so much trust, but I'm starting to get my life back together. And so I was 7 months sober, in 2 days when I relapsed again. Basically, I'm just here to say that there's no face to addiction. The people that I was in rehab with, cute little rosy lady in a wheelchair, and the old John veteran, and there was young people like me too, so there's no face. One guy was a retired Boston police officer, there was a lawyer there, and the rest of us were plain Joes with addiction problems. And we all came together to share a common bond. And my favorite part about recovery is that I'm not embarrassed of it anymore, and I don't care who knows if I did or didn't shoot heroin. I'm not embarrassed to say it. I have a really good support system. I go to AA with my father every week. He's got 27 years of sobriety, I believe it is. So my biggest message is to give second chances, third chances, fourth chances. If you think that someone is unhelpable and you need to walk away from that situation, that might be the time, the truth for them. But always be ready to stick your hand out and help somebody out, because you trip and fall many, many times, but a second hand up is always a step in the right direction and the way to a better life. So thank you.
So now we have Brandon from Journey to Recovery, and he can talk about his organization a little bit.
All right, I don't really like using the microphone, but I'll give it a try. I just want to let you guys know that we have a recovery center in Newport. It opened up September 15th of last year, so we're actually celebrating our 1-year anniversary this coming Friday. So we're rehabbing a nice barbecue from 12 to 2. I'd like to invite all of you to come there. We offer a safe place for people to come who have been affected by addiction. We have groups, meetings take place there. We also have what's called recovery coaches. A recovery coach is a person who is another peer that can do one-on-one guiding, you could say, or recovery coaching. What else do I want to tell you about it? Our hours of operation are currently Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. However, we do have meetings that fall outside of those times, and if you go to our website or our Facebook page, you can see when our meetings and groups take place. I think that's about it, about all I have. I hope to see a bunch of you there on next Friday, 12 to 2. I'm going to hand the mic off to Jason, I believe, from BART, and everybody give him a big hand, too.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, I'm absolutely blown away by some of the stories that I've heard tonight. Some of these things are touching home for me. I couldn't be prouder for some of the people here. A lot of courage, a lot of strength, and to come forward like you have. I'm going to pace. I pace all day long. My kids look at me, Dad, why do you pace? That's what I do. So, I thought I'm sitting here thinking about what I want to say, and one thing I definitely want to recognize is this is great that the community is coming together. We have something like this in St. Johnsbury. It's called DART 2.0, which is Drug Awareness Resistance Team. We meet once a month. It's on TV every month. Art's on the agenda every month. I'm going to talk a little bit about BART and what we do and where we've come from and where we're going. But I also want you to recognize one thing. If you really want to take a stand and do something as a community, we need more men like this man right here, Brandon. Brandon was told a couple of years ago that a recovery center won't come to Newport, that it won't be funded. He kept trying, kept trying, kept trying. He said, I'm going to do it anyways, whether we get funding or not. Brandon opened his recovery center 1 year ago. Yes, I work at the BART clinic, but I am a firm believer that the strongest path to recovery is peer-to-peer. I'm a big fan of peer-to-peer. I think it works. I'm going to tell you about my first day at BART. A little over 2.5 years ago, I walked into the St. Johnsbury Clinic. I was born and raised in St. Johnsbury. I love the Northeast Kingdom. I'll never leave it. First 10 people that walked through that door, I knew 7 of them. Blew my mind. Blew my mind. We were in a little small office out on Portland Street where they'd met for about 8 years. I walked out, got on my cell phone, and I called my new boss, who was Evan Clutter, who was the owner of the BART programs. I said 2 things, Evan. 1, we've got to do more. We can do more than just counsel and medication, which is a big piece of what we do. And we will continue to do that. And I said, and we need a new building. We need to relocate. Our patients deserve better. Our staff deserve better. Evan gave me the green light and said, do whatever you need to do. We relocated a little over a year ago on Hospital Drive in St. Johnsbury, in the Medical Zone District. Very great place, very nice. Here in Newport, we've been at 475 Union Street. We can see the football field. We've had little to no problems in 10 years, no matter what the perception is of the work that we do. The biggest thing that we're trying to do is reduce the stigma. It's not easy. I get calls every day. Jason, there's 4 people out on the sidewalk. I said, what are they doing? Well, they're smoking cigarettes and they're talking. Oh my goodness. Go down by the hospital, they're doing the same thing, buddy. Go to the car dealership, they're doing the same thing. Go to Wendy's, they're doing the same thing. Because they're doing it on my property, they're drug dealing. Come on. Does it happen? Sure it does. Does it happen everywhere? Absolutely. We at BART decided to open our doors. When I took over a little bit 2.5 years ago, BART kind of flew under the radar for 2 reasons. 1, a lot of people didn't agree with the treatment that we do. 2, we were capped by Medicaid of how many patients we could have in our facilities. First 7.5 years, we were allowed just 75 patients that insurance would cover at each facility. That's 150 patients total. I stand here today, 2.5 years later, we are at 810 patients. It's not even something that I want a round of applause on. I do appreciate it, and my counselors and my my staff do excellent work. They have the hardest job in the world. I say that every day to my counselors. You have the hardest job in the world. You see people come in, they are at the bottom, the absolute bottom. 6 months later, they're doing great. 2 days later, they're at the bottom. 10 days later, they're missing. I got to call my counselor on Sunday night. I'm sorry to tell you this, but John Doe has committed suicide. John Doe has overdosed. They're upset, they have hearts, they have feelings just like everybody else. They come back to work the next day because they know there's someone else that they can hopefully change their life and make a difference. Yes, we do methadone. Yes, we do buprenorphine. Yes, we do Vivitrol. We'll do them all. They're all publicly, everybody has a different opinion about it. I don't care. It's worked for hundreds already in this community. I'm also a firm believer, if it doesn't work for you, let's find something that does. We just ran a 12-week saying this all wrong, sorry, Carol. We just did a 12-week trial down in St. John's River. We did meditation with the Chevalier Center. We brought an acupuncturist in so we could do acupuncture. In Newport, we said, let's do gardens. Let's do some gardens. People can grow their own food, learn different things, take pride in what they do. I had a gentleman call me the other day from jail. Left me a long message, very tearful, cried throughout the whole thing. And he just said one thing that stuck with me. Jason, when I was actually clean and I came out of rehab, you came out outside that day with a crowd of people around. Most people are intimidated by that thing. I'm not intimidated by people. We're all just human beings. And I said to him, I'm proud of you. In front of his friends. You're doing a good job. He called me from jail and said, no one's ever said that to me. I have no family left. I burned all my bridges. And I want to say thank you. And when I get out, I'm going to need your help again. And we'll be there for him. People ask me. People keep relapsing. Why don't you just kick them out? Where are they going to go? To the street? Private doctors won't take them anymore. We will take anybody at any time because we believe everybody deserves a second, third, fourth, sixth, seventh, eighth chance. It doesn't matter. Brandon, you're an amazing story. Thank you for coming here today to share that with us. I will admit I didn't know who you were until you started talking. I know who you are. I've got some memories of you. I didn't. But thank you. It takes a lot of courage to get up here with these people who are doing it. For the moms, sorry. I'll never know how you do this. I never will. People ask me when I took this job, why are you doing this, Jason? I said, have you seen our communities? They're a mess. There's 461 people in Newport community that come to my clinic. I don't know them all, but I know most of them. I try to meet most of them. I have an open door policy. I try to see as many people as I can. A lot of times I have to bring the bad news to people. I've asked my counselors, bring me the good ones. Give me the success stories. I want people to come into my office so I can say congratulations. Keep up the good work. We're proud of you. And you're doing it. And you're doing it for yourself. So, in closing, that's just me waiting to think for another minute. I do speeches all the time, I do presentations all the time. I've been to Dallas recently, I've been to San Francisco. I enjoy doing it, but it's more about the passion and what I believe in. There are more people in this room that can help. Instead of pointing fingers and saying, oh, they do this, they do that, do something else. I'm not saying our way is the right way. I don't care if you come or not. If you want help and you come through our door, you're going to get it. And let me tell you, what's the hardest thing to do when things are down? Take that first step into that door. Make that call and ask for that help. It doesn't have to be with us, but it can be with someone. This is a disease. It's no different. I'm a cancer survivor. You guys are all survivors. We all get through it one way or another. This disease has no limits. It affects the wealthy. It affects the poor. We have people that call us that are doing very well in life that have this addiction of opiates. How can I beat this addiction? Jason, I can't come to your clinic every day. I can't do it. I can't see people see me with this addiction. We try to help them other ways if that doesn't work for them. I Again, remember one thing. If you don't know someone that is addicted to opiates, I'm sorry to say, this is a small community, you will. And it's up to you to decide how you want to help them. You want to turn their back on them, or do you want to let them in? Again, it affects everybody. The postman, the nurses, the teachers that are teaching our children, person painting our house, you name it. No boundaries, no limits. What are you going to do about it? You're going to sit back and let the stigma just get worse? Or are you going to do what we're all doing, trying to reduce that stigma and trying to help people one person at a time? Each path of recovery is individualized. It shouldn't be scripted form. You shouldn't say you can only be in this program for so long. It's individualized. Let them get through it at their own pace, and they will succeed. Thanks.
So we passed out those surveys when you first walked in. So if you want to take a minute and do that, and put your name, contact number at the bottom. You'll be put in a drawing. Mark Shelton donated some of his Elvis tickets, but it's more for if you do want to stay in contact and see where this goes from here. And it was just bringing awareness and getting the community rallied up. And Missy and Jeannette, they have their group Monday night at Lake Region. But Michelle and I, we meet usually Wednesdays. We'll probably be doing that once a month. But if you want to stay in touch and see where this goes from here, something has to happen. And my main goal is a sober living facility. So thank you guys for coming tonight. I don't know if you wanted to ask a few questions. I know it's a little past 9, but if anyone has some questions for the panel, or Brandon, or Jason, or Brandon. Time for questions? So
Yeah, I got a question. My name's Dennis. I'm a breaking recovered alcoholic and drug addict. What's the protocol for getting people off?
I think she has a microphone right there. There you go.
Hi, my name's Dennis. I'm a breaking recovered alcoholic and drug addict. I've been clean almost 23 years. What's the protocol? What's the protocol for getting off the Suboxone and methadone? Is there any, I know you like to put people on it, but do you ever like to wean people off it so they can be completely clean?
Sure, that's a very fair question. Any person can get off Suboxone and methadone at any time. We are like a doctor's office. You can come and go. It's okay. We do it very simply. Someone comes into our office and says, Jason, I've kicked the heroin. I want to kick the Suboxone. I want to kick the methadone. I said, okay. We do what we call, what's the name of it, Tina? What? Taper readiness test. So we give them a test, and if at the end of the test it says, we don't think you're ready, but you still want to do it, we're going to support that 110%. We do what's called, we have a taper, and then we have what's called a blind taper. So if someone that comes in is on 80 milligrams of methadone a day, and they don't want to know how much they're going down, we won't tell them. Some people will do it over a month, some people might do it over 4 or 5 months. But anybody can taper at any time. We try to do it medically and slowly. Some people want faster, we'll speed it up. Some people just want to stop and don't come back in. I had one gentleman who disappeared for 10 days. We reached out to his family because that's our protocol. After 3 days, if we don't hear from someone, everybody that comes in signs a release and says we can reach out to them or an emergency contact. We got a hold of his wife. He called us. He said, Jason, this is what I had to do. He's a construction worker. He was building a house. He went and locked himself into that house for 10 straight days. His wife brought him food, water, things like that, and checked on him every day, and he kicked it cold turkey. And that's fine. It's a safe way to do it. Either way, to answer your question, people can taper at any time. We just ask them to do it responsibly and to be medically safe. Even when this gentleman did it, he says, Jason, I want to thank you and your team. You guys have done a great job, but I don't want to come back in again. I said, listen, come back in so we can just medically check you out, and then you're good to go. And another gentleman that was in our program, I'll give the mic back real quick. And this is one of my favorite stories. I didn't even work there once. Carol Smith, who's been at Mark for 10 years, we're lucky to have her, told me the story when I first started. We had somebody I was in the program for, I don't know what the length of the stay was, it's not that important, but he tapered off, he was successful, he was doing okay, we followed him for 3 months afterwards just to make sure, I still want to come here every day, because the structure and the regimen worked for him. He got up, he came in. I said, you can't come in here anymore, you're not a patient. How about I walk to the clinic, knock on the window, say hi to the receptionist and the security guard, and then go on my way. He did that every single day for 1 year, and then he stopped because it worked for him. So people can taper at any time.
Thank you.
Question?
My niece was on methadone and she was pregnant. I really think that these people that are pregnant should be off methadone. You know, that poor little baby that's there and is getting that methadone. Isn't there a way that these people that are pregnant, they can get them off on that?
There are. Ultimately, it's their choice in the end. What the research is showing is that, and I wish we had a medical provider here today, but we don't. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to act like one. I don't have all the answers. There absolutely are. I remember last year in St. John's, I believe we had 19, Carol, 26? 21 addicted moms in the community. They weren't all on our program. I think we had about 14 or 15. Using methadone while you're pregnant, there's been no research that it harms the child. Period. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. Is it the answer? No. It'd be great if someone could go through pregnancy and not have to use anything. But when a woman gets pregnant and she's shooting 8 to 20 bags of heroin a day, a choice has to be made. What's going to be best for this child? And right now, the research shows that they go on Subutex, which is like Suboxone. So, I don't know if that helps with you or not. I'll give you my card afterwards, and I'd love it if you could talk to one of our nurse practitioners or our doctor.
Was there any more questions?
As a member of the community, what is it that we can do to assist everyone in trying to combat this terrible disease in the state?
Well, you can always go to our meetings. You put your contact information if you want to do more. It's bringing awareness right now. I know Bernie Sanders actually called my husband yesterday. He gave us a lot of information on different names and numbers and grants and things to open a sober living. So that's in the works. He knows about the event. He unfortunately couldn't come tonight. He said later on, if we were to have another event or a meeting collaborating with Jeannette and Missy, he would come to another meeting like that. But if there's something that you guys want to do to help, just put your information down and we can get in contact and we can do something. I mean, just talking right now, different ideas and different resources. We have tables outside with different resources. So that was the main goal tonight, and to see where it ends, where it begins, actually, where it begins from tonight. So I'm not good at public speaking, so yes.
Hi, my name is Melissa Zabrowski. Jeannette and I lost my brother Christmas Eve last year, and after Gary passed, Jeannette and I kind of formed, I guess now it's called NEK End Addiction. And last month we had a community forum at Lake Region, and we had probably over 30 people attend, law enforcement, community members, education, and our first meeting we came up with some action items. And so we're meeting on Monday night again, and one of the things that you could do is come to NEK Stand Strong or us, and I know we're going to be trying to collaborate. So you're more than welcome to come on Monday night at Lake Region, 4 p.m. We'd love to hear. That's what we want. We want people to come and share their ideas. and be involved. That's what we want, and to bring down the barriers, the walls of stigma and judgment. It needs to change. So you're more than welcome to do that, and we'd love to have you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. I really enjoyed the stories as much as I could. But I had a question for Brandon. You mentioned a couple times, I believe the word you used was an inability to confront personal responsibility. And I'm curious if for you there is a connection between personal responsibility and confronting past pain or grief or loss in your life, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've learned in my journey that I had to like uncover in order to discover in hopes to recover. So like if I'm in a car driving down the road and all of a sudden I get a flat tire, pull over, and for years I would address the battery. That makes sense. You know, and finally when I was so low to the curb with the skyscraper, I had known for years that I was an alcoholic and an addict. I had known it. I knew my life was unmanageable. If not, the plot wouldn't have been involved. Me living on the streets wouldn't have happened. But the terms of my contract had changed when I accepted the fact. Because it was at that point in time that I had became teachable. Because when I think I know or I got this, I have a needle in my arm or a glass of wine in my hand. Well, that helps to answer the question, but...
I have a question, Brandon, actually. You said a couple of times during your talk that during your addiction, you didn't want to admit that you had a problem, and when you broached the subject with you, you kind of redirected yourself. If you're dealing with somebody that actually has addiction and doesn't want to admit it to themselves, do you have any suggestions how to help them, bring them to recovery?
What I do is when somebody is in contact with me, the first thing I tell them is to say, obviously, your life is not in good shape if we're on the phone together right now. You know, I didn't seek you out. Somehow, somewhere, powers to be got you in touch with me, and how you feel right now on the other line of the phone, whatever state, city you're in, they're calling me when they're in a state of despair. And I let them know that how you feel right now is the best that it's ever going to get while you continuously use drugs and alcohol. Tomorrow is going to be worse than today, and so on and so forth. So whatever you feel right now, enjoy it, because it's going to be the best that it gets. I know that for a fact. I've seen you do it for 24 years. I don't ever tell them what they need to do or should do. I tell them about my decisions that I've made while using and while not using and how they played out. Because I know when someone tells me what I need to do, I tell them why they need to go F off. You know, because it's real simple. It's not my idea. If it was my idea, I would excel at a rapid pace. My idea was I wanted to go spend a few $1,000s, give it to a therapist in Times Square, tell her my deepest, darkest inner secrets, and her say, okay, Mr. Novak, you're cured, you have a glass of wine on Saturdays and only sniff a bag of dope on Sundays. That's what I wanted. Didn't play out that way.
Hello, daughter. I have a question. Most of our discussion tonight has been reactive to the problem. What do we do to be more proactive in raising our children well, having success in that way?
I'm really glad you brought that up. I was meeting with Governor Shelton about a year ago, and he said, Jason, the facilities are great, we're getting people in the treatment, that's working. Bart was the first ones in the state of Vermont, actually Berlin, the director of Tina Plastic is here tonight, to eliminate the wait list in the state of Vermont soon after Newport and St. Jay followed. So remember that there is no wait list right now. We take pride in that, we want to kind of keep it down there. but we're missing something, and it's education. It's education, a little bit more law enforcement would be helpful. It's not happening. I remember going to school. What did we have in school? And we all remember it. What was it? DARE. Research shows DARE did not work. But I still remember some of it. I got something out of it. There's nothing going on right now in the schools. So we have, and that's where we have to start. We have to get rid of these pill parties. Everybody know what a pill party is? Everybody brings pills, dumps them in a bowl, you grab some, take them. That's how it starts. It's getting younger and younger, we all know that. You hit it the nail on the head. It has to start with education. It has to start early education. Can't, my kids go to a small school right now, I love it. I went to a small school, my graduating class in 6th grade was 9 people. Then I went to the St. Johnsbury Academy and it was 300 people. Doesn't matter what the size is, we have to start young. I know it's scary to talk about your kids. Talk to your kids about using drugs at such a young age. We have to. We don't have a choice. We're in this world right now. Something that's changing, and I think it's changing rapidly, is our medical providers, our doctors. One of the reasons that we're in this mess is 10, 15 years ago, doctors were being told that people are in pain. We have medication, we have non-addicting medications to treat it. Treat them. Give them these painkillers. Now we're flipping it back a little bit. Yes, there is a time and a place for some of these medications, but there's also Tylenol and Advil. Take 2 of these, suck it up, it'll be okay. I know it's different when it comes to cancer, HIV, and other major illnesses. But when you have your knee scoped or you have a surgery, they send you home with a bottle that says these are good for 30 days and you can take 5 a day. And then all of a sudden you're out. They were wrong. Medication was addictive. I feel like I'm rambling here a little bit. But I'm a firm believer that we need to start young. Not middle school, not high school, as early as elementary. It doesn't mean we have to show them what the stuff is, but we just need to educate them. This is what happens to you if you go down this path.
Do we know if there are any education programs in the state of Vermont?
There are some. Each school is different. I'm not sure what, for instance, what this school is doing. It seems like a very active community. I'm sure they're doing something. But there's always more that's needed. Health class is great, but it's not going to teach us everything.
We have time for one more question.
I just want to add to that, that's okay? Tara had mentioned her goal is to bring a sober house living to the community. One of our biggest goals is education. Jeannette and I thankfully had the opportunity to present to the entire student body at Lake Region just before prom and just before the school ended out with our stories of our son and my brother. One of the things that one of the items that came out of our first meeting was positive peer pressure. And kids today have so much peer pressure, social media, et cetera, What can we do to promote positive peer pressure? Everything we do relates to alcohol. We go around, we have a bonfire, have 10, 20, 30 beers, graduation parties, our kid's 6-year-old birthday party. Let's turn that around and do something and have it be positive instead of so focused around alcohol and drugs.
My question's for the moms and the sister that lost. Sorry. I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I lost my mom's boyfriend in March to drugs. Well, he was addicted and he tried to hang himself. And I'm very angry with him. And I don't know how to get past the anger. And I know you, Mom, had said that you went through an anger period.
was more angry at the person that introduced him to it. He had back surgery a year ago in March. And then when he couldn't get pain pills anymore because they were being abused by both of them, I guess. So I was really angry at that person. And I'm still working at forgiving because I know I'm forgiven. And it doesn't mean that whatever happened is okay, because it's not. And that's not about forgiveness. But forgiveness for me is, I forgive you because I'm forgiven, and I can move forward and I can heal. It's not about me.
Michelle, do you have anything to say? I think we have resources if anyone has questions, the table out in the lobby.
I think just that, for me, this is a catalyst. This is really the beginning of something amazing in this community. And absolutely, education is so critical. We need to be proactive as much as we need to figure out how to be supportive of those that want to go into recovery, that want to stay into recovery. How can we make that happen? Recently, I was made aware of a campaign that's targeted at fifth graders, though I've been told that it maybe needs to go lower than that. And it's about no first time, and it's about getting the message out, and I am starting to have all these thoughts as far as if you young folks, could be a part of that no first time campaign. What would there have been something that you could have heard in fourth grade or fifth grade that might have made a difference? Is there something, how can we get that message out of who knew that first time? Who knew that that was going to lead to what I see as being the incredible biggest thief ever? What a time thief. How many days of life, how many years of life are gone and wasted, because of drugs. And what can we do? So this is the first, that's why those little pieces of paper everybody got are so important. If you want to be a part, if you want to figure out what can we do, what can I do? Put your email address down there. Check off what you're interested in. If you want to jot a little comment down, do so. Because we're going to gather them all, we're going to sort through them, we're going to organize them, and we're going to start reaching out and finding more resources, more opportunities. And we've got some pretty heavy hitters, Colin. I mean, Bernie Sanders saying he's going to try to help find some funding to make social living happen. Well, there's lots of other opportunities too to find resources and funding, but also resources. Look at the resources sitting here right now, to do education. So it's not like we have to wait for somebody on high to bring us money or a grant. We have the power in and of ourselves to make a difference every day. And who knows what that difference might be? And who knows what that little thing might be? It might be just acknowledging that person in the grocery store, looking in their eyes and saying, hello, how are you? I see you. You matter. Those little things. So we are so late. I think the high school is probably going to charge us a little extra. That's okay. We'll figure it out. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Please take the time to fill out the surveys. We will be pulling the winners for the tickets, and we'll be making phone calls tomorrow to let people know who won the tickets to the Elvis tribute. Other than that, thank you very much, and have a great evening.